Welcome to the third video in our Windows 7 for Starters series. In this video we're going to cover a couple tricks for making your experience with Windows 7 just a little more unique. And we're also going to discuss how to disable the UAC, or the user access control. To start off with, we need to open a couple programs. I'm going to open Notepad and Paint because they're two very small, very quick programs. The first feature we're going to cover is the snap feature. You use the snap by clicking up here in the title bar. Simply drag your mouse to either the left or the right side of your screen. You'll notice we have a blue rectangle that pops up that comes from the left side of the screen, about halfway across. If we let it go, you'll notice the window has been resized. We still have Notepad back here. If you notice, if it's right here, we can't see what's in Paint. If we left click in the title bar, drag it back to the right hand side, we get the same blue rectangle. We let it go and it snaps up to share the screen. Now we can use both apps without any trouble. Just draw a smiley face. I'm terrible with drawing with my mouse here. Okay. Likewise, if you left click in the title bar and drag it back across, it's going to size it back to the same size it was in before we snapped it on each side of the screen. Since we still have two windows open, this is a great opportunity to show off the shake feature. The shake feature is a way that you can minimize every window but the one that you currently have mouse focus on. So let's left click on the title bar of Notepad. If we shake it, you'll notice Paint disappeared. It minimized itself down to the system tray. To bring it back, simply shake it again. And there we go. Another way to utilize that feature without left clicking in a title bar and shaking your mouse real sporadically is to press the Windows key and the Home key on your keyboard. That will minimize and bring back the windows other than the ones you currently have focus in. The next feature we'll cover is the task switcher. The task switcher has been included in Windows for some time now. I use it all the time in Windows XP. Windows 7 has two versions of the task switcher. The first is just a basic version. It's very similar to the one in Windows XP. You simply press and hold Alt, and you press the Tab key once while holding the Alt button down. You'll see the little rectangle in the center of the screen. It shows us two open programs and our desktop. We can tab over while holding the Alt key and let off of Alt, and we're back at our desktop. Once again, press Alt and Tab. We can scroll back to Paint, Alt and Tab, Alt and Tab, back to our desktop. The other task switcher that's built in Windows 7, if you have arrow effects enabled on your desktop, simply press the Windows key and Tab. In the very same manner, all you're doing is replacing the Alt key with the Windows key, and that'll bring up a 3D representation of the task switcher and allow you to toggle through the windows in a 3D manner. Now that's pretty neat. I can't demonstrate that on my virtual box. I'm having some issues with the arrow effects right now. I will work that out and I'll cover that in a later video. I'm going to open up a window. It's how to close a program without using the mouse. It's very easy. You simply press Alt and F4. Of course, I have text in the Notepad, so it's going to ask me if I want to save. Say don't save. Let's go ahead and close out Paint using the same technique. Alt and F4. Since I actually drew something in Paint, it's asking me to save it, so now I don't care to save it. And there we go. Using those basic tricks will give you a little more unique approach to Windows 7 as opposed to your typical left click here, right click there type mentality. The last feature we're going to cover in this video is how to manipulate the behavior of the UAC, or the user access control. It's actually really simple to do also, but this is probably more for advanced Windows users, not the person who's brand new to Windows 7, as this does pose some security risks. You're going to left click on the Start button and go to Control Panel. You're going to come up, click on User Accounts and Family Safety. Click the User Accounts header again. We want to change User Account Control Settings. You notice I've already turned mine off. This slider we can dial up and down to increase or decrease the behavior of the UAC, or the user access control. Anytime you run a program, access a file, say you download the Firefox installer, try to run it, UAC is going to prompt you to see if you really want to do that. It's kind of a double check or a double take, just to make sure that what you're fixing to do is something that you opt to do. Its main purpose is to make sure that it's not being software driven, that something hasn't taken control of the computer and is manipulating settings and changing files. things of that nature, such as certain spyware and malware can do. It's set at the default setting. At the default setting, the UAC control will pop up, dim out the rest of the screen, and only allow focus on the UAC pop-up. If we click down to the next option down, you'll notice the option says notify me only when programs try to make changes to my computer. Do not dim my desktop. This is pretty much the same option as the default. The only difference is it doesn't dim out your desktop. You can still put mouse focus in other windows. That can be a security issue, because say you've accidentally downloaded one of the malware programs like Antivirus 2011 or 12 or whatever is up to now. You may still be able to click and mess with that program while UAC is actually calling your attention to it, making sure you don't want to do that, or whether you do. By the way, the Antivirus 2011 or 2012, that is malware. Stay away from it. If you scroll all the way up, you're going to see the Always Notify Me option. Anytime you try to install software, anytime you try to make a change to the computer, anytime you change Windows settings, even when you run certain programs, you're going to get prompted by the UAC. This will act more like it did in Windows Vista, which can be very annoying. If you're new to Windows 7, I recommend leaving it at default. Even for most users, default is a more than adequate setting. It doesn't drive you crazy. Not as bad as it did in Windows Vista. If you're more advanced and you trust yourself and you trust your surfing habits and you trust your antivirus and malware programs, then feel free to knock it down to never notify me. That basically turns off UAC. It won't pop up. It'll pretty much leave you alone. You will not be prompted, and you'll be able to go about your computing experience uninterrupted for the most part. If you opt to turn it off, it's also a security risk, because you're not going to be notified if something does attempt to change your system files, try to make a change to a Windows setting or something of that nature. If you have a malware or spyware infection, that can cause some issues. In my case, I'm going to go ahead and set it back at default. Go ahead and take OK. And it's going to let us know that we have to restart the computer to turn it back on, since I had previously turned it off. In some cases, you will have to go ahead and reboot the computer for that setting to take effect. So that's pretty much it. That's some basics of getting around some of the more advanced features of Windows 7. You can even check our Facebook and Twitter feed, and also our blog for the topics on what's going to be covered in our next video. Thanks for watching.